So, hello everybody and welcome to the fourth part of this ongoing course on how we made this shot in Blender and all its different parts. And the last time we've been creating this guy here. We created all the assets and downloaded the body mesh from BlendSwap. And now I have imported all of my other soldiers on 2D planes, which is the workflow I've been creating in the second and third part of this series. And they are all walking, and all we need to do now is to put them on particles. I've actually always wanted to experiment with various crowd simulation tools that are available in Blender, but there are not that many, frankly, and I haven't done that yet. Instead, I've always been using my 2D soldiers on particles because I never needed any elaborate crowd simulation yet. So no large fighting groups or anything yet. There are add-ons for Blender, but I haven't tried them. Feel free to let me know if you try some and find some that are useful. So yeah, let me know and I'll try them. But so far we'll be using these on a particle simulation. So you can see here I have this collection here. Army walking soldiers 2D on 2D cards, and I've put all my 2D soldiers into it. And with it we will be creating particle emitter simulation, and we will start by just creating a plane, for example here in the origin point. And let me have a look from the camera view. Okay, make sure that you do not add the ground plane to your collection where the soldiers are, so put it outside, and also you can just push the soldiers outside of the view. Okay, also we may push the plane where our particle simulation will be outside of the frame as well. And let's make it wider so that the soldiers will emit from a wider area. And now it's just about adding our particle system and making sure it's emitter. And the first thing we will do is go to this render, collection, and choose our army walking soldiers 2D. By the way, I will be providing these soldiers on 2D cards in the project files for this course, so be sure to download it. And yeah, click on it. Check this object rotation so that they are rotated upwards like this. And also you can pick random. It will randomly shuffle through the particles and make the selection more random. Okay, let's also make this bigger. I think last time for what worked for me was 0.92, but really it's up to you. You basically just want to make sure that your soldiers are scaled correctly based on the size of your scene. And you can even add a little randomness here so that not all the soldiers are perfectly the same. So let's have a look here. This is not really what we want. Well, it looks awesome, raiding soldiers, but that's not what we want. So let's set up this simulation a little bit better. Okay, so first thing we will do is to have a look at this emission menu here. And we don't need as many soldiers, so let's in fact just put in 200. Let's jump into frame 1 so that it updates automatically. What I want is for the soldier particles to start emitting even before we start on our timeline. And we can do it here in the frame start. Let's in fact input a negative number here, something like -400. And let's end the emission of the particles at frame 0, so that once we reach frame 1, no more particles will be emitted and already the whole army will exist. You know what? In fact, let me go to the velocity here, and we will change that effect of them falling like a rain. So first, let's input 0 to this normal velocity so that it doesn't emit the particles with a force based on their normal or on the normal of the plane, which is up, I think. if we have a look, yes, if we check this face orientation here and see where is the blue side is here, so the normals are pointing up. And this normal would then make sure that the particles are emitted upwards to the direction of the normals with a force of 1 meter per second. Let's have a look at the effect actually. Let's input something like 5, for example, and see, the particles jump up before they start falling. And the fall, of course, let's not forget to input 0 because that's not what we want. And the falling we can deactivate by deactivating gravity for the particles here in the field weights. Let's go back to frame 1. And now, yeah, they're all walking, but they're disappearing quite quickly. So that's what we can mitigate in this lifetime. And let's input something like 2000 so that we are sure that our soldiers do not disappear over time. And right here, we can see all our soldiers at once. Let me deactivate the face orientation. And they're walking, but they're not walking to the side as we would expect. For that, let's focus in the velocity menu on this object aligned direction. Let's have a look up here, and you can see that X is to the right and negative X is to the left, which is where we want our soldiers to walk. So let's input something like -1 in here. Yeah, they're walking. Let's have a look at their legs, and you can see that they're sliding forwards. They're going a bit faster than they should be walking. So let's input something like -0.9. And now it seems like they're not sliding that much. Yeah, this feels better, kind of better. Yeah, I think -0.9 will be fine. And you can see it's just 2D particles walking, which is exactly what we wanted. You can even push. Let me stop the timeline actually. You can even push the particles a little bit backwards and to the side so that the soldiers start about here, and this will be the first frame of our scene. Of course, as you can see, these soldiers can't really stand on their own. They are not really bouncing that much as we would like, and there's visible repetition. There is also a visible repetition of the animations. Some things we cannot really do much about. For example, it's quite visible that it's 2D, and we actually need to always hide these 2D crowds behind a layer of 3D geometry. So in front of these later we will add our 3D soldiers. But for now, what we can do to improve at least something is to make some more unique animations for these soldiers. So you can do that by actually, let me stop here and go to frame 1. Okay, let me have a look at these original soldiers. And now whatever is in this folder with the walking soldiers will be sourced by this simulation here, because we are sourcing the collection. So I actually don't think that our this soldier with the plain shield, he's sticking too much out of the crowd. It may be I don't want to see him that many times. So let's have a look at one option that you can do, and that is this use count in the render collection menu. So let's have a look. When I check this, you can see that we have all of our particles here, and there is this number 1 at each of them. If we raise this number for a specific particle, we will actually get more number of that specific particle in our simulation. So the soldier that I want to appear less, this plain one that we created with the free assets, yeah, we don't want to see him that many times in the simulation. So the way we can do this, if I hit a 0, he won't be there at all. So that's not what we want. Instead though, what we can do is to raise the number of all the other particles here. So basically adding 2 in each of these soldier particles, except for this soldier 9. You can see now that he is, there are much fewer repetitions of this concrete soldier. Let's in fact make him even rarer. And 3 for all of them except for our soldier 0.9. And of course, if you like him, if you have more soldiers like that, you can safely, make equal numbers for all of these particles. I just think he's sticking out a little bit too much. And what I also think is that he's a bit larger than the other particles. So let's, in fact, make him a little smaller by hitting S and scaling him down. Something like this will be fine. And that's all because we checked this object scale here. Now, whenever we scale any of the particles here, they will scale here as well. So that's the neat option. So let's have a look. They are walking. Some of them are sliding, but what I basically want is just to show the tops of these soldiers, not really the feet. So yeah. You can definitely play around with the speed of this simulation. Maybe something like negative 0.88 will be better. Let's see. Still, some of them are sliding, some of them are walking. This also depends, of course, on the speed of your animation for the characters. But when we have a look like this, I think generally negative 85, for example. I think this will be fine. Yeah, these guys are sliding, of course, but it will not be perfect. And if we have a look at it like this, I think it's quite fine, and we will hide it by a layer of 3D soldiers. By the way, as you can see, all of these guys here will be basically duplicated in our particle simulation, and they will all of the different types of particles will animate the same. We can have a look at our simulation, and you can see that, for example, when you focus on this blue shield guy, the animation is still the same for him, and that becomes very obvious in large crowds. One of the solutions, and unfortunately I wasn't able to find a more elegant solution for this, but what we want is to randomize some of these particles in time so that the animation sequence starts at different time. By far the easiest solution, unfortunately, is just duplicating these. So you need to use Shift D, not Alt D, to duplicate these particles without being linked together. So Shift D, duplicate them, and actually then go to Object, Relations, Make Single User, and Object Data and Materials. This will ensure that the newly created duplicates of these particles will have their own data and create a duplicate of the materials which we need to randomize the image sequences on them. So let's click it and have a look at the materials. For example, when I pick this first guy, Soldier 6, and click on this one, you can see that Blender created a duplicate of this material. So let's go to Shader Editor, and now what I want to do is to basically offset our animation so that this guy animates differently than this guy. For that, I need to change this start frame, but when I do that, nothing happens. That's one weird thing that you need to do as a next step here, is to make even these image sequences basically duplicates or unique for this one particle. The way you do that, you just click this number. This number, by the way, indicates how many objects use this texture or this image sequence. If you click it, the number disappears, and you can see that when I now offset it with this, and the soldier starts animating, you can see that the animation is different from this one. Maybe if we put, for example, 18 or 33, no, it's almost the same, so 20, for example. And now it becomes apparent that the phase of the animation is different. We need to do it for the specular pass as well. So let's input 20 here, and for the normals and 20. Next particle. Again, it's unique, but we need to make it unique. And let's, for example, input 18 here, make this one unique, and this one unique. And now the animation on this one is visibly different. And when we now do it for all the particles, let me stop the recording here. So I've quickly created unique animations for all of these, and you can see that they are visibly animating different. Let's have a look at the simulation here. Focus on the shield, and you can see that some of those have a different animation phase than the others. And of course, if you create a second or third variation, you will introduce even more randomness into your particle soldiers. Cool. What we can do now is go to cache and bake this simulation. And now we have baked it. You can see it by this red color down here. And that's for the 2D soldiers. In the second part of this series, we have created the 3D walking soldier. In the same way that we created that one soldier, I created 8 variations of my 3D soldiers, basically those that I used for these 2D particles. And now I want to import those 3D models, those animated 3D models, into my scene here. So I will just append them from the file where I've created them. I will append their collections. You can uncheck the instance object data so that it's appended to your scene. It's not really instanced. And click append. When that's done, I can create a new collection that I will name Army Walking Soldiers 3D. And I put all these collections that I appended with the 3D soldiers into it. Cool, that's just for a better organization. And in each of these sub collections, I have this armature for all of the soldiers, and you can see that they got imported the wrong way. So let me just rotate them 180 degrees and push them somewhere in here. And they will basically serve, and let me actually do it in the shaded mode. This can be visible in the shaded mode. And I just basically now reposition them so that they cover the background soldiers a little bit. You can push them in Y as well. Push them like this. And I want them to animate, to basically walk over the terrain that is currently missing, but it's just that it's hidden. And that I do by using an empty object and parenting all my soldier armatures to it. But I actually don't want to do it with parenting option, but there is this better option called constrained, better for this case. And let me name this driver soldiers, and now select soldier 1 armature, select this add object constraint child off, select this one so that the driver soldiers is driving the position of this soldier here. So when I take it, the soldier will move with it. And to make it faster now, you can select all of your soldiers here, hit Ctrl+C if you have the copy attributes add-on activated in preferences. It's actually free and built into Blender, so I highly recommend activating this add-on. And if you now select all your soldiers and last one, select the one with the constraint, and here Ctrl+C click, select constraint and the child of that we created on soldier 1 armature, you can copy it to all of your other soldiers. So now when we move this, all of the soldiers are following. Okay, next step, and let me actually deactivate this collection with the particles and also name this soldiers 2D, and also deactivate this one just to make our viewport faster. So now they're walking, but they're not really moving. So let me go to the first frame of my timeline and hit I with the empty and keyframe allocation, and go to the last frame of our timeline and push these guys to the left quite substantially like this. And again, keyframe the location with I. And here you can see we have those two keyframes created. I just want it to be linear animation. So with T, hit linear here. And now they will be walking like this. And let me play it. It seems that they're walking kind of slow. And instead of rekeying everything, we can go to the graph editor, select this keyframe on the x-axis, because that's actually the only one that we are animating, since we are going to the left here, and left means this x value. And instead of rekeying everything, we can actually play with the positioning of this point in the graph editor. So if I hit G, you can see once I start moving this, the value of the x here on this side will change. So if I want them to go further to the left, I basically just go more to the negative value of x like this. This is, I don't really want to go into basics of animation and graph editor in Blender, but this is how you can play with keyframes in graph editor and changing your animation. So now they're maybe walking a little bit too fast. And you should always look at the feet of the soldiers, whether they're sliding once their legs hit the ground. Okay, some of them seem to be sliding, some not. And actually, what we can do is to show basically just the legs of these guys, just to have along with the armatures, of course. So if we select the armatures and the legs of all of these guys and then hit Shift H, see, now it's much faster, and we can see that some of them seem to be not sliding. For example, this one, these guys seem okay, but this one is sliding a lot. And that's where I want to show you why this constraint is so useful, because there's this influence option. And if we lower it, basically the soldier will follow the driver soldier's empty that we created, but it will not follow it completely. Basically, the influence of the parent is lowered. And this way we can basically differentiate or make more random the speed of the animations of the soldiers. So this is how you mitigate that some of them are, their walk cycle is a little faster than the others. Let's input something like 0.8. And he's still sliding. So 0.6 might be a better value. He's lagging a lot, but now, yeah, he's too slow now. So 0.68, for example. This is, of course, playing with the numbers. 0.64. And yeah, this is better. We basically want to push him now to the left a little bit so that he's part of the group. And he'll be lagging. And this one, we can do 0.995, for example. 95. This one 0.98. This one 0.99, just to add a little bit of randomness to that movement. It never hurts. Cool. And now our soldiers are walking. This one seems to be going too fast as well, so 0.8 or 85 might be a better value for him. Cool. Very nice. And now unhide everything that we've hidden. And there seems to be someone going through the other. So let's push him on Y, for example. And on X, push this guy to the back. And yeah, these guys are going through each other. So let's push this one to the foreground. And now when we unhide our particles and have a look at our scene, and now when we look at our soldiers and play the animation, well, it's not real time at all because it's quite a lot of data to preview in real time, and my computer is not the fastest, but this is the idea behind layering soldiers like that. With these 3D soldiers in the foreground, I have hidden the guys in the background so that one doesn't focus on them too much. And in my final scene, you can see that the idea behind layering this scene is completely the same. These are even the same soldiers, except for these horses here, of course. But I have just put together more soldiers than we did in our previous scene. I put them on various places of the scene. I did not reveal their legs so that it wouldn't be too visible that they may be sliding somewhere. And behind all of that, I put the 2D particles of the soldiers. And yeah, that's how I put together this crowd of people. I know it's not the most elaborate way to do this, but that's how I created my walking army shots. We'll not go into detail on the horse. That will be a topic for some of the later courses or tutorials. And yeah, all that remains is me showing you how I put together this main hero. But for that one, I didn't use free resources. I used actually Character Creator. So I will just show you in the next part how I put together the base mesh of the soldier, and yeah, then just go over some assets. But most of these assets, the aspis, the helmet and the crest, I have detailed in my free tutorials or my courses, so you'll be able to have a look at that whenever you like. So yeah, that's it for now. And just 2 parts are remaining. One part will be the main hero here, as I mentioned, and the next one will be the dust and fog layer of the final scene. So yeah, hope you liked it, and in part 5